It is my joy to be with you today on the 4th of July to share some deeply held things about my love of our country and our place as God's people in this particular country of the United States. And I asked the producer if I could share some things with you, being a former military chaplain in the Air Force, and he said that'd be fine. So that's what I'd like to do with you today. When you think of countries and, what are the great countries and what are their characteristics, you might think of, well, it's a great country because of the economy, or it's a great country because of its military prowess, or other kinds of factors like that. But the real strength of a country is not in its prowess as a nation, in its force and might, but rather in the virtue of its people. That its people are its strength always, not machines, not computers, not this or that, but the quality of its people. I have learned patriotism by watching wonderful citizens of our country dedicate themselves to making not only our country, but other countries better, where humanity can thrive because of the goodness of people willing to sacrifice for them. I just think of so many of those I work with in the military, beautiful human beings. The last thing they'd want to do was kill anybody or go to war. But they have the courage to defend the innocent. As a matter of fact, in the early church, those who were soldiers were very suspect because they spilled blood. But when it came to an understanding that they really are there to defend the powerless and those who cannot defend themselves, then they were able to be baptized. A lot of people don't know that. But while they were soldiers, there was this period of time where they were forbidden actually to be baptized because they spilled blood. What I have found as far as patriotism and how it has been seen, the first person that taught me about patriotism was my mother. She's an immigrant. She came to the United States in the middle of World War II from Poland. And her journey was an extraordinary one, growing up and listening to her stories of survival. Her parents, my Polish grandparents, and my uncle, who was in the Polish army, when Poland was split, the family, because my grandfather was a head forest ranger, when the Russians came in, they took the whole family, my uncle and my mother and my grandparents, shipped them in a boxcar to Siberia. And it was in Siberia that my grandfather died. Eventually, my uncle joined the Polish army, and my mom and my grandmother, my Busha, were able to come to the United States through people that were already family members that were already here. And when I was being deployed to Iraq in support of the war at the time, to Baghdad, I had to call my mother up and say to her, "Mom, I'm being deployed to Baghdad, and I was calling her to tell her I may not be coming home." And my Polish mother said to me, "Bobby, most people don't know in the United States the fear of being, just the fear of even breathing because you would be killed." The stories that she told me were just so powerful of faith and of courage. I've seen other wonderful patriots, and I've heard their stories. Vietnam vets who carry the scars of war, working with them in the VA, dealing with those who have fallen in war at Dover Mortuary, and looking at young men and women who gave their all for our freedoms, praying for them, welcoming them back home, and hoping their grieving families would survive their loss. Our country is a great country because we have great people. We need more great people that understand that freedom is not free, that we need to give everything that we can as God's people to the benefit of our nation, not out of selfishness or protectionism or anything else, but to be great in virtue so we can make our country not only the best, but the best for everyone. and to welcome everyone who wishes to contribute. My mother came to this country because she wanted to contribute, and she did. She was very proud. I remember when she got her passport, and she just waved it in front of me. She was just so happy. When I was in Afghanistan, bombing around in a helicopter, blue and white helicopter, reminding me of Mary's helicopter, actually, and I was celebrating Mass. And this young captain greeted me, and he says, "Father, we don't have a chapel or anything built." It was in the foothills of the Himalayas. And he said, "But we do have this place we just built. It's like a 3-sided lean-to thing where we meet with tribal leaders and other dignitaries. And we have these round tables that we have set up, for the meeting." So he said, "I think we've got enough room, to have Mass." And I said, "Okay, let me see." And I go there, and we had a translator, and there was a little Afghani man that was the minister of hospitality, and he wanted to serve us tea, chai. So I told the translator, "Well, tell him we're going to have a meeting, and after the meeting, then we'll have some of his tea." So I prepared this table, and I had 12 soldiers, if you could believe that, around this table. I'm celebrating Mass, and as I'm preparing the gifts, the little Afghani man, little short, skinny little guy, turban, the whole thing, he comes and he puts teacups all around, not making any fuss or disturbing anything, just very quietly. Then we have Mass. I give the soldiers Holy Communion, and after they've received Holy Communion, the little Afghani man comes around and he pours tea in our teacups. And the soldiers are looking, they're going like, "What do we do, Father?" And then he comes with a plate full of cookies and sets it in the center of the table. Again, all hospitality, not wanting to intrude or anything else. And so the soldiers looked at me and said, "Father, what do we do?" And I said, "Looks like we're going to have tea and cookies." And it was at that moment that I saw how peace can come into the world where hearts are in the right place. So for you and me as God's people, and the reason why I tell you this story is because peace between nations, peace between peoples, peace between citizens has to do with genuine love and concern and dignity of everyone. And that's the hallmark of our nation. I love the fact that we're not one race, one ethnic group or this or that, but we're a collection of humanity melded together by ideals that are still evolving. We're not a perfect country. We make mistakes. We continue to make mistakes, but we do so much good for so many. I could tell you so many different stories where I've seen exemplary Americans give their all in taking care of kids, building schools, fixing sewage plants, just all sorts of things. One man came up to me. I was at my parents' parish, and the pastor introduced me. He says, "Today we have Father Robert Cannon. He's a chaplain colonel in the Air Force, and his parents go to our parish. We'd like to welcome him." And the people gave me a nice round of applause. Then after Mass, I hadn't even gotten down the end of the aisle. And this man came up to me and he said, and he pointed his finger at me, he goes, "I'm against the war." And I looked at him and I said, "Which one? The war against poverty? The war against hunger? The war against abortion? The war against drugs? The war against war? Which one?" And he just stared at me and walked away. As God's people, we're called to be defenders of freedoms, human dignity, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, when that pursuit of happiness is for not just our own good, but to make the world a better place. Do I love our country? Yes. Do I acknowledge its faults and failings and things I wish I could change? Yeah, there are a lot of those. But I know one thing. I need to do my part as a citizen to make this country as good as it can be, so that I not only enjoy freedoms, but generations from now, as my ancestors who came to this country gave of themselves, so that I have the freedoms I enjoy today. So as God's people, we're called to pray for our legislators, that they be wise, good, holy men and women. We're called to do our part as citizens in the country to make it a better place, to be courageous in defending our freedoms, but also courageous in defending the faith that we have received, that we hope will impact how our country grows. So that's my prayer for the 4th of July, that our country, even with its wrinkles, warts, and failings, may be better example of what a nation should be and can be for the rest of the world. That's my prayer, and may that be your prayer too. God bless you.